Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this week's WilmingtonBiz Talk. We're here on your lunch hour, so it's appropriate that we talked about food and some popular restaurants in our area. We're going to have a chat with Dean Neff, who's chef and owner of the newly opened Seabird restaurant, and Jud Watkins, who owns Wrightsville Beach Brewery. But before we dive in with them and get an update on the restaurant industry, we're going to hear a quick word from our sponsors, Cape Fear Realtors.
Hello, I'm Ann Gardner, CEO of Cape Fear Realtors. Realtors support this program's efforts to connect our community in meaningful dialogue with actionable insights. Realtors are dedicated professionals who build strong, resilient communities and businesses. Work with someone you can trust. Work with a realtor. Learn more at capefear.realtor.
Hi, everyone. I'm Vicki Janowski, editor of the Greater Wilmington Business Journal, and today we're talking restaurants, in particular, the restaurant and food and drink scene in Wilmington. This is a sector we've checked in with throughout the pandemic and last year because it was one of the industries most visibly affected by shutdowns and phased in reopenings. And now that in the state of North Carolina, we have a full reopening or loosening of restrictions of indoor dining and outdoor gatherings, we wanted to take this moment to check in with some longtime restaurant owners for our area and see where they are in terms of their business operations. So first off, we want to talk with Dean Neff, who is a chef and owner of the newly opened Seabird restaurant. Real quick, Dean, tell us how it's been going these past couple of weeks since you've been opening and running the downtown restaurant.
At somewhat limited capacity, and we've experienced a lot of business, and which has been great. Given that we're at limited capacity, I think we're doing like 75% of what we could do, and we're also waiting on our outdoor seating permit. But downtown has been bustling like I've never seen it. It's really busy pretty much every day.
Yeah, it feels like, and I know we'll talk about this a little bit more, but it feels like the summer crowd and the tourism season, I almost feel like it's already upon us. I see a lot of visitors in and about town and in restaurants already. Jud, what are you seeing over at Wrightsville Beach Brewery? How's the crowds and the diners been there?
We've been really fortunate to be busy all spring. Of course, the mild weather's helped a lot. We have a lot of outdoor dining, but our brew team's been working overtime. We have to forecast beers anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks out. Our lagers take a significant amount of time. So whereas in past years, we started to gear up around April and early May, we started seeing our inventories diminish early. So we really started working overtime in March and April.
So Jud, you're one restaurant owner or brewery owner that we have checked in over the months, just at different chapters of what's been happening. As people who are watching remember, Wrightsville Beach Brewery did a lot of innovative twists and pivots during the shutdown, including operating a drive-through farmers market, running, I think, a grocery at some period with your food supplies, and just other things to kind of keep people coming back, even as the disruption was happening. So are you guys back at your core function of brewing beer and serving food? Or are you still trying, did anything that you did, those projects last year, stick around that you want to continue doing?
One thing I think we've seen that has stuck is the curbside. And as we try to stay listening to the national trends in craft beer from the Brewers Association and our statewide guild, we're hearing that a lot of craft beer enthusiasts still prefer to either dine outside or get things curbside. So that volume has stayed high. We pretty much have to keep a person dedicated to the phones these days, which is something we never experienced back in 2019, 18, and previous years that we did business. So it's a welcome bump. Truth be told, sometimes on Fridays and Saturdays, it's a little bit hard. And people have to forgive us if we miss their first phone call. They catch them on the second or third time they try to call, just because it's a good problem to have, but it's a problem all the same of keeping up with a balance between, you got a bartender pouring a beer, somebody in the kitchen making pizza, somebody making a to-go pizza, somebody getting to-go drinks. June 1, the to-go mixed drinks goes away. That was a very small bump, but a fun little one to see. We've never seen that in North Carolina before. North Carolina's typically pretty conservative when it comes to alcohol laws. So a lot of shift in kind of where we do the volume. Outdoor seating, as long as the weather's nice, still continues to be the preference, I think, for at least 60 to 70% of our customers.
Oh, that's interesting to know. So Dean, so you guys, you and Lydia, you were planning to open a restaurant. I mean, this has been months and months in the making, I'm sure, in that beautifully renovated space in downtown Wilmington. So what makes someone want to open a new restaurant during a pandemic, not knowing when, seating restrictions would go away?
Well, you start planning it before there's a pandemic, and that's kind of what happened with us. This restaurant has been in the works since, I believe, November of 2019, and so we've been working on this a long time. The building was a complete renovation, and so originally we had anticipated it being June of 2020, and thank goodness it took longer. We feel really fortunate that we kind of dodged that. And it took longer. There were a lot of thought and a lot of planning went into the space, and it really gave us the time to work out the details, which was kind of nice in hindsight. And so yeah, we felt very fortunate with the timing, and we're hopeful and cautiously optimistic, as everyone keeps saying, that things will continue to trend in the right direction.
So let's talk a little bit about staffing. This is an issue going on nationally, and we hear it a lot happening locally. And before we move on to the new topic, I do want to remind everyone, if you're watching us live on our Facebook page, I see you already have some fans that are posting about both eateries, but if you have any questions for Dean and Jud while we have them on here for the next 15 minutes or so, feel free to post those on our comment section, and I will pass them on to them while we're having our discussion. So labor shortage, it's a term we are seeing here around the country. So it's not just a local Wilmington issue. There's a lot of discussion on what's behind it, what's causing it. But what are you two as restaurant owners seeing for like here currently? Are you having any issues filling staff?
Go ahead, Chef.
So, we are kind of still probably in the process of determining whether or not we're having problems filling staff because we are a new restaurant. We've got a really wonderful group of people that have been working with us. And I think that, as business, continues to be strong downtown, and as, we continue we're really working to kind of get more people hired. We've been really fortunate, like I said, in finding some people who are kind of old friends and people that we've known who have kind of, collaborated with us. And so, yeah, I think that it is definitely a challenge. You hear it all over. I think what's coming out of this a little bit, though, too, is that restaurant owners are being forced to really do a better job of being good to their employees. And so I think that's, I know that's not all of it, but I think that, one of the challenges and maybe one of the good things to come out of this is that, we are forced to think about ways to make restaurant workers' lives better and more sustainable. And if we don't do that, then restaurant workers are going to go work construction or work at Trader Joe's. And so it's really a challenge, but I think that, we can definitely do it. But, that's one of the things that we're really trying to focus on as well right now.
That's well put, Chef, and that's something we've really tried to be cognizant of from day one for our wages and making sure everyone's got a living wage. And by the way, I've heard nothing but great things about Seabird so far, so I can't wait to get down there myself. Another staffing shortage, I think, is probably babysitters right now. So with my wife and I having two little ones, we don't get out very much, but we're excited to get down there. But to the staffing question, historically, we've seen a pretty natural flow of resumes coming in, and with the exception of some higher level positions, maybe assistant brewer or sous chef, we haven't really had to post jobs in our previous 4 or 5 years. This year we started with Facebook, which is the natural place. You got a lot of followers on there. Hey, it's one of my favorite places in town. Tell your friend, tell your neighbor, go apply there, and that's served us well. So this year, for the first time, we've really had to go to Indeed and some other sites and really blast it on there a little bit more so that we would see a more steady flow. Knock on wood, we're doing all right now. I've seen a lot of restaurants in town closing Mondays or Tuesdays, and that's I hate seeing that. But I'm also looking at that and I'm like, man, yeah, it'd be nice to get a day off here or there somewhere. But I think that's also, to your point earlier, Vicky, why you're seeing all of these places that look like they're already doing summer numbers is that you shut restaurants down on Mondays and Tuesdays. Those folks that want to go out to eat, they're going to go somewhere. So it's just going to keep pushing it around to another spot, and keeping those of us who are open pretty busy. We're staying open 7 days a week for now. We hope to be able to do it through the summer, but ask me again, 4th of July. We're really fortunate to have a lot of people that have been with us from day one and typically try to beat the average on retaining staff. But yeah, who knows what July is going to look like. I think Wilmington's going to have a very busy summer on the whole, not just us, but the entire area.
So some of the interesting things I've read about, like what might be contributing to this coming to a head nationally. Now, obviously, there's a discussion about what role the enhanced unemployment benefits play into it in terms of people competing against that for wages. And for those who are not following that, that's currently set to last at the federal level until September, so to go throughout the summer season. But other factors that have been brought up, of course, you guys both mentioned just the living wage issue, but in other parts of the country, I read, and it was interesting that there had been already kind of a slow tightening of certain labor pools. And I'm curious what you guys saw just before all this, before a pandemic. Dean, you were already previously pretty active in the downtown restaurant scene as well. So this is not your first rodeo in running a restaurant. So with hospitality being such a large part of our economy here, have we been seeing that locally as well? Did you notice any trends of, fewer people going into hospitality jobs before 2020, or had that always really been kind of a strong industry for us in recent years? Jud, do you want to start off? I think, yeah,
Sure.
go.
I personally felt like
Go ahead.
industry. Oh no. So yeah, I personally felt like it was a strong industry. I feel like the shutdowns and the way everything kind of, people were really forced to kind of choose, and so I think that we've lost a lot, but going into the pandemic, I feel like we were, before that, our industry was strong. We had a strong labor pool as well.
Same thing for you, Jud. Were you seeing any slowdown in people wanting to go into hospitality or work in hospitality before?
Yeah, hospitality is a really broad term. In our area, we include all of the tourism industry with it, hotels and everything else. I think in terms of higher education, you're seeing community colleges and universities start to add that to their list of offerings. There's a tourism program. There's only a minor at UNCW now. I'd love to see that. We've always had a culinary program at Cape Fear, but what we don't have in the Wilmington area is an actual culinary school. So you've got more or less minors everywhere you look. And that's not to say that's the only way that people fall into the industry. I'm an example of someone who worked a totally different career path. But hospitality kind of has this way of pulling you back in, having worked just about every restaurant position you can imagine over the years through college and after. But I think it gets harder each year, particularly in the United States. We forget, these are humans, and particularly out front, with a lot of times you see people aren't treating servers and bartenders as well as they used to. That cordial nature has just in the 5 years or so we've been open, people have really just love to take it out on an individual or a small business online, and I think a lot of times we just kind of sweep that under the rug and pretend like it doesn't hurt, it doesn't sting. But when somebody attacks an individual online, rather than going through the appropriate channels at a restaurant or a brewery or a bar, I've had servers who have come to me in tears, or even people in the kitchen, being like, they wrote a nasty review about a pizza I cooked, and that makes the industry that much harder. That's not to say that Wilmington is not going to see growth in tourism and hospitality. We're a great tourism destination. I love our beaches here. And there's other draws now, including the brewing industry. But I think each year it does get a little bit harder to work in this industry. I've noticed that trend over my career in it.
Okay, and let me ask about another end of the business then. Are you guys noticing any issues or hiccups with supplies when it comes to inventory or food, beer ingredients as well? I only ask that because we see these kinks in the supply chains for things like, cars and microchips and furniture and appliances. I'm kind of curious about how the grocery supply chain is affecting you guys.
Jud, do you want to go first?
Sure. Since we ran a grocery store last year, there's always out of stock stuff. Maybe previously restaurants put a little bit more with one vendor. We even see it on the brewery side, a grain that we'd like to brew certain beers with from a certain vendor. We had to sub out. Now there's some things that there's a good comparable substitution, and there's some that it's a very specific grain. In the kitchen, the same thing. There's a very specific thing that you'd like to have, and you can't sub. So we kind of started to hedge our bets a little bit, not put all of our eggs in the proverbial one basket. Keep multiple food vendors coming in the building. When you hear about a rubber shortage or you hear about a pine straw shortage, there's probably for every one of those 2 or 3 in the kitchen. Different things. The ketchup packets was the big one. Unfortunately, we don't use ketchup packets here at our restaurant, but that's not to say that a lot of stuff you're having to order weeks, months in advance, or nitrile gloves that we all cook with to be safe and sanitary in the kitchen has been insane in the last year. We watch them go from like $30 to $170 to get these types of things, if you can even get them in. So yeah, supply chain continues to be a big factor for us. And we just have to do our part as proprietors of restaurants and bars to try to absorb those costs as best we can, but it's hard not to be thinking that we're entering into an inflationary period.
And let me also ask you, and Dean, maybe you can start us off this time. How are you guys navigating the changing regulations, or, in terms of whether your staff or diners feel comfortable with everything opening up and the mask regulations dropping? It's not just your industry. I think every office and every industry has to navigate this without a playbook of how to have their employees, ushering them through all the changes that we're going through right now as the reopening phase kind of starts.
Yeah, and I think that it's a little bit misleading. The information that came out basically said that people who are fully vaccinated are able to congregate indoors and outdoors without distance. And so I think that a lot of people, that's a reason to celebrate, which it is. However, if you read that carefully, it says fully vaccinated individuals. And so in our businesses, we're not legally allowed vaccination for our employees. Yesterday, kind of explaining exactly what we were dealing with as a business. And I know there are a lot of personal feelings on masks and mask wearing. And so the gist of if you're fully vaccinated, you can congregate. And then this is the other part that we are trying to figure out, just the fact that we're not allowed to require vaccines. And so for that reason, we were asking all of our staff to remain masked as a group. And as far as policing, in, but we're not policing. We're trying to keep our staff star on that right now.
All right, Dean, I can't tell, you're freezing up a little bit. I can't exactly tell if it's just my Zoom or if you're freezing up for others as well. So caught a little bit of that, and apologies if others couldn't quite hear everything too. So then, Jud, can you maybe fill in some of the blanks there too about what restaurant owners are talking about?
Sure. I think everybody was kind of surprised, regardless of which side of politics you sit on, with the CDC announcements last week. It seemed to come a lot sooner than any of us were expecting. And then the state reaction came a day later. And unfortunately, this isn't the first time we've seen it. And most of us, if you're not a 9-to-5 schedule where you either work from home or go to the same office every day, we're writing these schedules based on volume, based on Mother's Day, based on holidays, and we're writing them a couple weeks out. So we can't just, on a dime flip that. And so unfortunately, when customers come rushing out, they hear this announcement from the CDC, the mask is one thing, but us staffing something that we learned about 24, 48 hours ahead of time is a whole nother thing. So, all we can do is continue to ask the general public and our customers to be very patient with us through this. We have gotten a number of nasty emails from the health department and others saying we have to comply with this or we have to comply with that. And we try to do our best to say, hey, these aren't our rules, but if we don't enforce them, we could be shut down. And I don't think people recognize that fully. So the more you can kind of help us spread that message, just be nice, be kind. We're rolling with standard operating procedure changes on a weekly, if not daily basis. And it's trickling down all the way from the White House to an 18-year-old host at a restaurant, and it's not very fair to take that out on an 18-year-old. Please don't do that. And unfortunately, we've seen that a lot in this last year. So everybody just be nice.
All right, so be nice and patience to carry through the summers, Jud's message. Dean has relocated to another spot in Seabird, and you guys probably missed it while Jud was talking, but he did a quick run through the restaurant and it looks great. So let's end on, Dean, why don't you start us off, and let's go back to, I guess, what gets you guys excited. Obviously, people who are in the restaurant industry, people like you guys who have been chefs and brewers for such a long time, clearly have a passion for what you do in this industry. So let's maybe end on, like, what are some things that you guys are excited about, either with y'all's individual projects or just the food and brewery scene in Wilmington overall as you look ahead. And Dean, you want to kick us off?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, getting back in the kitchen was a really bright spot for me after, 2 years of not being able to cook. And so one of the things that's always made me really excited to live in Wilmington is the amazing availability of seasonal seafood. And, it's as seasonal as produce. And so, with this restaurant, we're really sort of trying to push that forward and show folks in the area kind of, what's in the waters currently and how that changes throughout the year. And just also, working with people who share your passions, and, whether it's cooks and other people in the front of the house or farmers or fishermen, it's like being able to kind of get back out feels really good. And I think we're just so fortunate to have so many great breweries and restaurants in this town, and so many great sources of food and farmers markets and farmers. And so there's a lot, I think, to be excited and positive about, for sure. And just on a personal level, it feels really good to kind of feel like, I'm getting back out and part of the community again after the past year.
How about you, Jud?
Hugs lately have been nice. Something that's been missing for a while, it seems like, and just how we greet each other. So that's been good. There's so many things that are they're different right now. Customers at the bar is something that we've been really excited about. We, for lack of, the term we're all using now is PPE, right? So because we couldn't necessarily screen off certain areas, and we had, we've got staff from 18 to 68, something like that, a pretty wide range of staff. So for the overall health of our team, we made a decision not to seat at the bar up until about a month ago. And seeing those regulars come back out in their faces and having those conversations is really been something we've missed. And I think you almost have taken it for granted our whole lives. That's why we're in the hospitality industry. Is we like to interact with people. We like to interact with our coworkers and their customers. So I love seeing that back, not just in the building, not just in the beer garden, but like specifically having those little short conversations at the bar. It's been nice.
Nice. Well, I want to thank both of you guys for spending this time with me. As I think, as we've shown during our talk, you guys are both very extremely busy, and so this break is much appreciated. And also for all of you watching on the live stream, I guess if patience is the takeaway, thank you for being patient and being patient with Zoom and all the technical things we've come to get used to and love this past year. Tomorrow's edition of the Greater Wilmington Business Journal will also focus a little bit even more on this topic, and looking forward towards the summer tourism season, Memorial Day being just around the corner. So we'll preview the upcoming tourism season and also talk a little bit more about the labor issues that are up ahead, and have some more voices from our area and industry talking about that as well. So be sure to pick up a copy of that or go to WilmingtonBiz.com to read that edition and those stories. If you want to catch up on any previous Biz Talks, you can find those on your favorite podcast streaming station or platform, or you can go to WilmingtonBizTalk.com. So Jud and Dean, thank you very much for your time, and have a good busy weekend this weekend.
Thanks, Jud. Thanks,
Brad.
buddy.